Hello and welcome to our video on King High flops. This is going to be a shorter one as I am going to be leaving for free live poker tournaments pretty soon. But basically for today, I'm going to take you through five different King High flops in some different situations, 30 big blinds deep. And then you'll be able to see how we kind of approach these different situations right, based on what the two other cards are. And in this very first one, it makes sense, of course, that low jack versus big blind, 30 big blinds deep. Of course, big blind will be checking their whole range. And in terms of the low jacks approach, it makes sense that when you have this equity advantage of 66%, really, this is one of the best possible flops you could have low jack versus big blind here in the low jack. So it makes sense that, excuse me, that we're just going to be betting our entire range here. And that the sizing we're going to be using is, either that 33% or that 55% sizing. Because, it is such a good board, and, you can kind of see that virtually all the hands are kind of mixing between the two sizes, like it's generally the thicker value like aces and the ace king that is almost always going for the biggest size. And the hands like say queen nine, like with not very good pairs, like queen nine, queen eight, queen seven suited kind of being the hands that will use more of the smaller size, like those very marginal sort of hands. But anyway, let's also look at another flop. Actually, before I do, I will just point out if let's say they do go for the 3.15 sizing, just to see it from the big blind's point of view. When I do go for that sizing here, you'll kind of see that, even some of the 10x is going to be folding in this spot. So you kind of need the backdoor flush draw to continue with the 10x. So you really kind of need like a jack or 10 plus draw to kind of continue in a spot like this, which is why 10-8 and 10-7 suited are just folding. That's also going to be where quite a few of the bluffs going to kind of come from the opponent's range. Okay, with that, we can get to the second king high flop. I've chosen some different positions, some slightly different situations, but the 30 big blinds is remaining consistent. This one is hijack versus button, seeing the example where we are out of position, and you can kind of see that the equities do run fairly close here, only 52% equity advantage for the hijack when you've got, some of those cards around like, 10 to a 6 that just kind of hits or 10 to a 7 that kind of hits the button's range quite well, as it were. Like if you look at the reports and the flops, then if you use that feature, it's a little bit slow right now, but you can kind of like see the different flops are going to be, sort of better for the buttons range. And you can kind of see sort of these middle to lower cards, like with the 9 and the 10 and the jack, they're sort of going to be, and also the lower cards, they're kind of relatively the best for the buttons range, whereas the player who's the earlier position, just going to benefit a lot more from having more of those big cards on the kind of board, as it were. But anyway, going back to the strategy in EV, we can see here that we're just going to mostly be checking that. There'll be some thick value hands like king queen suited, king 10 suited. They're going to be mostly betting. It kind of makes sense that strong top pair and better is like not really going to be checking so much on this flop. But just about everything else, you're going to be checking, most of the time, as it were. So that's a pretty easy heuristic, and it turns out the button responds against the majority option of a check. You see that again, quite a bit of mixing, but also quite a bit of checking. Again, if you look at the equity, it is fairly close in this spot, but again, you really kind of want like top pair, top kicker, or like top pair, second kicker, or better, really, to before you can start firing pretty consistently. See, king 10 suits, two pair, king 8 suited is two pair, like eight's obviously a set. And I mean, there are some exceptions. Hands like deuces and ace 4 suited, especially with with the flush draw. Kind of going for it more often just because, they don't really have like just don't really play that well kind of post flop in a way. So you kind of turn them into bluffs a little bit, 6-5 suit as well, without the else kind of picks a bluff. But still in general we can see it is mostly checks, just like thick value in some of the very best bluffs that are kind of going in the betting range. And actually I will also show you when you do bet there, it is going to be that sort of 55% sizing. When you are in position and your equity is quite good, it's when you have pretty good equity, you are, but not like saying the absolute best possible equity. In those cases, you're only going to use like a somewhat bigger sizing in position there. Whereas if the equity wasn't good, maybe your betting range would be a little bit smaller in some cases. But anyway, as it happens, looking at the third flop of a paired board, King 7 7 two tone. Um, yeah. So with this one, it makes sense, yeah, that in the big blind, this one being under the gun versus big blind, I kind of want to choose a single raise pot. Want to choose a bit of an extreme example. So of course, yeah, you're basically going to be checking range in the big blind. That makes sense. Like the paired seven, yeah, is maybe not bad for your big blind range, but at the same time, it also reduces the chance that you have a seven, and yeah, you can kind of see that maybe the undergun doesn't really have much of a nut advantage, but they do of course have a very significant range advantage on a paired board like this with 62% equity. And so in a spot like this, because you kind of have a very hit or miss, it does mean that you are going to have a decent amount of checking, and yeah, we see a lot of the weaker King X going for more of the checks, even top set like kings, when you've got a full house, you kind of want to give them room to get their low their flush draw or maybe pick up some gut shot or open ended that you'll end fire the turn. So you don't really need to protect such a hand. But some of these other hands, like yeah, sort of the offsuit kings, yeah, kind of going for a little bit more. Also a lot of ace high kind of going for the bets here, which which kind of makes sense. Especially yeah, when you've got the front door flush draw, yeah, those cannons will tend to a little bit more. Or if you just, yeah, sort of, yeah, that's sort of the pattern of just a lot of these hands. They're going to be kind of betting, yeah, just sort of denying the equity. Yeah, it kind of makes sense that the underpairs and the, underpairs to king are going to be sort of mixing, but in general, the underpairs to king are mostly checking, and yeah, the underpairs to the seven do bet a little bit more because you're kind of happy to get folds like from two overcards in a way. But yeah, in the case, so you do go for a very small sizing. It kind of makes sense on paired boards. Yeah, you will often go for this kind of 20-ish% or size, like one fifth or one fourth pot. Yeah, looking at how the big blind defends, yeah, it makes sense. You're going to be raising all of the 7x except when you've got the full house, because you kind of want their draws to get in so you can kind of stack them in that way. But yeah, if you've got King X, you are mostly just going to check it, and it's only like the King Queen, like the strongest King X you have that's going to raise, because you will still get called by the worst King X. And then you've got like a few bluffs here or there that kind of wrap around the seven, as it were, but and also those that wrap around the king. But yeah, mostly you are just folding them. Even those hands, majority of times, there's a lot of kind of low frequency bluffs. And yeah, kind of the if you've got like a front door, back door flush, or nut flush, and yeah, those sort of hands like will kind of bluff a bit. But if you've got like a good kicker, you just have a bit too much showdown value to really turn into a bluff. Is kind of the idea. And yeah, when you sort of are going for these raises with the like a offsuit ace, actually will often be with that ace of diamonds again for that kind of backdoor sort of nut flush drawing sense. Okay, moving on to the fourth flop we have. And for the last time, I have made these free bet pots with the free better being out of position. Just I think that's kind of an interesting dynamic. And yeah, with this one being a free bet pot with a small blind free bet over the cutoff who calls, you're going to see on these monotone kind of flops, this one being a bit disconnected on the numbers, but very connected, of course, with the monotone. Yeah, you're going to see that you're not really going to do much checking. They're just going to bet nearly your whole range for a pretty small size, like 10% or 25% pot, as it were. And yeah, sort of the hands that will kind of go for the bigger sizing, yeah, will kind of more often be these hands, like say with an ace of clubs in that will, yeah, be ones a little bit more going for that sort of sizing in that respect. So that's kind of the idea. Well, that's if it's offsuit. If it's suited, yeah, we'll still go for more smaller sizing, but yeah, the giant is you kind of just mix between the two small sizes, and that will kind of cover you pretty well in that sense. And then if you do go for that small sizing, if we do put that and see the way that the cutoff should defend it, yeah, you're not really doing any sort of racing, just because yeah, you either kind of have the monster hand or you don't, and yeah, if you do have that kind of nut flush, you're happy to just call and just let them keep putting money in the pot with their bluffs. No, you can always like raise it or like bet really big on the river and sort of get the money in that way when you already have like 80.7 big blinds. It means that the SPR is already like less than two, so you are going to be able to get in the money in a lot of cases, even if you do just call in this case. And yeah, not really folding much. Like even if you have like say ace ten without like the back door, like you're just sort of getting enough equity when they're just free betting, when they're just betting like their entire range, as it were. And yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about these low frequency bluffs. I think if you just, well, I guess the top pair isn't really a bluff, but yeah, I would just kind of check it down. I'd just call it down here with range. I think that would work just fine. Moving on to the fourth one. Actually, this is the last one. In fact, the fifth one. Picked out five examples, and for this final one, yeah, I've gone with cutoff versus big blind free bet pot. So you can see, yeah, the free bet. Yeah, but 30 big blind here, you will be having a decent chunk of jams in the big blind with some of these, a lot of these pocket pairs and some of the best ace X and yeah, a few of the couple of bluffs here for some balance. But yeah, we're looking at the raising range going to be, yeah, basically like sort of super nutted hands, aces to queens, ace jack, and then a few of these sort of bluffs, yeah, like the jack 10 suit, 10 9 suit that, still play well post flop when called. And again, some of these like high card mid card hands like, the king 9, queen 9, king 8 off, queen 5 offsuit, ace 8 offsuit. There's those hands that still can play somewhat reasonably if they call the free bet, as it were. So, yeah, as it happens, looking at this flop, yeah, when you're in the free better, you're just going to be betting like a kind of small size with range in a lot of cases. So you are mostly going for the 25% pot on this king 5 4 2 tone. And against the 25% pot size bet, we see that the cutoff is going to respond, yeah, with again not that much raising, like the raise are kind of coming from strong top pairs. If you have like king queen off, king jack off, you actually are going to just call down there, I guess, because also how kind of polar the big blind free betting range is in a sense that I have like super nuts or kind of air. But yeah, with the king jack suited, yeah, you're kind of seeing that you sort of want to basically unblock the kind of flush draws when you do raise with those sort of candidates as a sort of principle. If you've got like the front door flush draw, you are generally going to be just calling down unless you have like the nut flush blocker with some sort of backdoor straight. Those are kind of going to be the candidates that go for the raise. Whereas if you don't have the backdoor straight, like say ace jack suit, and yeah, you're just going to pure call in that spot with the front door or the backdoor flush draw. And yeah, it's also a case where you're going to be just folding out kind of hands that don't really connect with the flop. Like even some of this ace high that doesn't have a heart in it is basically just going to be folding. So yeah, that's just showing you how that range works. Again, not that much raising, but basically raising it with with some of the nut flush draws with some backdoor straights and also with the pretty good top pairs in that sense. Okay, that was all for this training. Made it a bit of a short and snappy one, which I guess also might be better for you guys as well, where even though it means missing out on maybe a few salties by not going very deep, but also as you kind of just digest it and take in the lessons a lot faster. So do let me know in the comments below if you do prefer this more slightly faster, rapid fire kind of style. And if you do, then I can consider perhaps doing a little bit more in this kind of nature rather than the super analytical nerdy style from before. But in any case, yeah, do make sure to show your support by liking the video. And I'm going to assume you like the video anyway if you got this far. And also to subscribe if you are new to the channel, just so you get to enjoy more of my kind of study journals like this. All right, I'm going to head to my live tournament, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Take care.